Today, I get to do to Chad what he did to me last episode. Dig into the parts of the story we don't usually tell. How he got here, what shaped him, and why he cares so much about helping business owners who feel stuck. Welcome to the Story of Scale. Welcome back to the Story of Scale. I am pumped about this episode because I get to do to Chad what he just did to me in the last episode.
I should have gone second. Or you could have gone the other way around. Interviewed second.
You took that to some embarrassing places. We got into childhood nicknames, calling me stuff that just makes me cringe. True story. The guys came into the studio. They're like, "Hey, Harris, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but we noticed that like throughout the episode, you were just like leaning it a little bit to the right." I was like, some of my psychoanalyzing thing kicked in. And I was just like, I think that speaks to the discomfort of some of the questions you're asking. But the reality is I never told some of those parts of my story. And there's so much there. And I know over the course of this season, there's obviously lots of stories that we're going to tell for multiple reasons. One, it's called the Story of Scale. And so storytelling is a part of this thing. We're going to tell the story of trying to scale, the stories that you're experiencing as you help other entrepreneurs and business owners scale. But also stories are an incredible source of wisdom. And so it's these experiences and these moments that we've lived that have led us to having the expertise or knowledge or understanding that we have today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm even thinking right now as you're listening, you said afterwards, like, man, I haven't really sat down and shared my entrepreneurial journey. And you're up on stage presenting, doing things. And I think sometimes we do need to take a step back and kind of honor that journey and process it. Even if it's like sit down with someone and talk about it.
Yeah.
Like how powerful that is.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I have no idea where this is going to go.
I know exactly where it's going to go. All of your childhood nicknames that you hate, all of your embarrassing. No, I'm kidding. Well, if you're just now tuning in to this episode, you might have missed the reality that we've been friends for almost 20 years now. We did the math, and it was 2006 that you came to Nashville, or 2006 that we met.
Yeah, I was in California.
You were in California at the time. And so I want to get kind of the pre-California, but I just want to start from the place of I was out in California. I think you had just sent me an offer for an event or something like that. You were booking lots of speakers and, comedians at the time. Is that the business that you started in? Was that one of your first gigs, or was entrepreneurship way before that? Were you trading baseball cards at like the age of 8?
I was definitely trading baseball cards, but I did not know, I'm a negotiator. So I'm a marketing guy, sales guy. So everything's negotiable, it feels like in life. I grew up, so pre-California, I grew up Northwest Indiana. Just outside of Chicago, so blue collar city. Parents were great, still married, celebrating 50 years next February. So I have an older brother, older sister. Super competitive. Sports was kind of my identity growing up.
Bears, White Sox.
No White Sox. No, White Sox don't exist. They're not a Chicago team. You go to get mugged if you go to a White Sox game. No, that's a Chicago joke.
I get it. He's a big Cubs fan. Yeah. Like we could tell you stories about the level of Cubs fan that Chad is, but
yeah. And by the time this episode comes out, the Bears may have won the Super Bowl. Probably not, but it's possible.
No comment.
Yeah. So, I grew up, my dad was an iron worker. My mom worked at a local law school. Definitely did not have entrepreneurship in my like life. I didn't know what that meant other than, I remember very vividly multiple times. My dad was a general foreman since he was 19 years old, led people, super talented at what he did. Was kind of renowned through the Chicago area. If it was a big job, they knew Danny Cannon was kind of running it, to the point where I'd be in the car and we'd hear phone calls of like guys asking my dad to come start a company.
Wow.
And my dad just would never do it. He was too risk averse to do it. And I remember in the back seat being like, if someone called me and asked me, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm doing it. And honestly, like not even understanding why, but more than anything, it was like, honestly, it was probably a lot to prove to my dad that I could. So, I learned a lot before I ever started my own journey. I moved out to California. my sister had moved out there, was newly married, and was like, hey, what better time to go to California than then? My parents were like, why are you going to California? It's so expensive, this, and this. And yeah, within 6 months, I was promoted to running that division. I was a speakers bureau, faith-based world, fired everyone, first day on the job, and was like, hey, if I'm going to be responsible for this, I'm going to, hired an assistant and grew that thing from $500,000 to a $4 million agency. And at 23, 24 years old, I was put on the executive team. That was pre-2008 bubble, so that was 2006, 2007. And then went through the 2008 recession as an executive at a $30 million company, wrestling with really hard questions. How do we keep people? The company was a faith-based direct marketing company. And the first thing churches cut during the recession was outreach. And so we were in a really hard place. So we didn't let anyone go. We had to kind of stop matching 401ks. We tried to run as lean as we could through that hard season. But I look back and, Scott Evans, who was the owner of Outreach, he's since sold the company and it's done really, really well. It gave me, this young buck, an opportunity at the table that I learned so much that I wouldn't have been able to learn in school, in an MBA.
Oh, no doubt.
In the middle of kind of that. And so I've had a chance to sit down with him face to face and tell him thank you. And cool. There's moments where I'm like, oh man, I learned that from Scott, And so they moved headquarters from California to Colorado. And at the time, it was like, hey, I was managing, he had promoted me a VP of sales and marketing for the whole company. So that small division that was, 4 million out of the 30 million, I now was over pretty much all of it and had 70 people reporting up through me. Wow. And they moved to Colorado for tax purposes, different things like that. And I knew I didn't really want to go. And so I had to make the decision not to move with the company.
Did you feel like an entrepreneur that whole time? Did you realize you were being entrepreneurial in that kind of role?
No idea. I didn't know what that word meant at the time. In my early 20s, it didn't, and being out in California, I was around a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners or successful people. But it just wasn't it wasn't a buzzword. It wasn't something that I thought about. I was just like, oh, I'm an employee at this company. And, but I definitely thought like a business owner. And I think that's probably why I got promoted, as quickly as I did in places, is because I not only worked hard, but I understood the business, and it wasn't about me. It was about, I got really clear about, hey, how can I help people succeed underneath me? Things of that nature. And so one of the best sales jobs I ever did when I moved from California to Nashville, I got a job as a VP of marketing at a book publisher here in town. Knew nothing about book marketing. Had never been a marketer. I'd been mostly sales up until that point. Even though, looking back, there was so much marketing that we did. I kind of taught myself pay-per-click. That's how we scaled. And then when I was at Thomas Nelson, I took over a team that hadn't launched a New York Times bestseller in about 20 years. We launched a little over 25 in the 4 years that I was there.
Wow.
Which was super fun. And a lot of the A-list authors were like, hey, what would it look like for you to not only help me launch books, but help me take my IP and build a business off of? And I was like, okay, slowly but surely, enough of them asked that I was like, well, I'd be stupid not to explore what that would look like. And so I decided to start my own agency, kind of a marketing agency, that I would work with these authors to help them launch their book in partnership with the publisher. Obviously, I wasn't a publishing business, but then, hey, how do we help them build business, take their IP, build products, all of that? So Lisa Turkhurst, Michael Hyatt, Jenny Allen, Ryan Levesque, different clients.
This is the model, essentially, just so everyone understands it a bit more. You're taking a book that the book alone might do how much in revenue?
Depends on the author. With an advance, it could be 300,000 to $1 million potentially.
But then you really take successful. That book and the IP of that book and turn it into a full stack of offerings.
Correct, multi-million.
And then we go from 300K to $1 million to what potential? Yeah,
Michael built his business from when I joined him. He was doing just over 7 figures. And, can't share the exact numbers, but it was a mid 8-figure size business in 5 years.
Yeah.
So what happened, was I scaled the marketing agency, didn't really even know in that point, like what scale was. Like I just was doing the next thing. It was like, oh, we're getting clients. The phone's ringing. We're saying yes. I need another account manager to manage this account. I was charging between $10,000 and $30,000 a month to, look back. Like at the time I was doing some media buying. I was helping them get, it was like scope of work type of stuff. Michael Hyatt was a client. Got to the point where the agency was growing so much. I went to them and said, hey, I really need to find someone to take over my role. I'm going to focus on the agency because it was 50% of my personal time, but only 10% of the agency's revenue. And so there just didn't make sense long term. So 2 days went by, we had a great conversation, and he's like, hey, what would it look like for you to come work for me? And so the big thing for me was I needed to be able to take care of my team and continue to fulfill the contracts that I had. So, and I'll never forget that. I made that announcement in November of 2016. Part of that, there was some decisions of, I was getting ready to adopt and become a dad, and just was like, I didn't really know. I was making it up as I went as a business owner. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, clearly you knew what you were doing.
Well, from a business standpoint.
Sure. I understand that feeling though. It's like, I feel like I'm making it up every single day as I go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's this.
And you have those moments at home where you're not present. Like at dinner, all you're thinking about is how I'm going to solve this problem tomorrow, because it's like, you've got 15 people relying on you for their food, so it was one of those where I'm like, okay, like I don't want that. Like maybe in this next season as becoming a dad, like no one ever preps you for that other than it's just like, oh, you're not going to sleep and you're this, and this. And looking back, it's like, oh, it didn't change my life that much. Like I could have kept doing it, but whatever. But it was a huge godsend to look back. Like it was definitely a blessing, and, going to work full time for Michael. I was able to keep my staff employed for another 7 months. They fulfilled all the contracts. I didn't take a dime from the business, and I went and worked with Michael, and he took over half of my staff and was saying, hey, we're going to really grow and scale this thing. And so I oversaw marketing. I came in as kind of their chief marketing officer, and then over time, the product suite changed to physical product, and then we built a coaching program. I'll never forget. This is a moment that probably changed the trajectory of my whole career. Because at the time I was running marketing, and we were a marketing company, and we were wanting to launch this not a physical product, but a coaching program. And I was like, I don't have time to do that. So let's hire someone. Let's hire like a director of sales that can go do this, that can sell it, but also build out the systems. Because while I built a sales team when I was at Outreach, it's just not something I've done recently. Yeah. And so, long story short, we hired this guy. 6 months in, nothing to show for it. Like closed 2 deals, no systems built out. Luckily, he saw the hot seat and left.
Sure.
And so we're halfway through the year, and I'm sitting at Michael's desk with his daughter Megan, who's the CEO of the business, and Michael's the chairman of the board. He's like, hey, our goal was to sell 400 of these. We've sold 2. It's June. We can either, and we're a goal setting company, he's like, we can
what was written down in the planner at the time.
Exactly. We can either change the goal, adjust the goal, and have a win through the rest of the year. We can completely not do anything and say, hey, this was a failed experiment, or we can double down and go after it. Little did I know, looking back, they know me, they freaking, Jedi mind tricked me, I think, knowing that I'm going to take on that challenge. And I was like, we're not changing the freaking goal. We're going to make this happen. And so, in typical Michael fashion, I was like, I want to commit to doing it. And he's like, the question that I think is so important is, okay, what would have to be true for that to happen? And I said, okay. So I just started rattling off, I can't be in XXXYZ meetings. The director of marketing I just hired, she's killing it. She needs to be promoted to chief marketing officer. My brain can't think about marketing for a season. I'm going to go in a hole and I'm going to sell. Give me calls, I'll sell. So we launched an event. We sold. So we renamed it. We kind of saw through this experiment that, hey, the value prop, the branding was wrong. So we repositioned it, launched it at an event, sold 40 or 50 at the event. So we obviously saw something there. I followed up. We built the whole marketing plan around it. We ended up selling, I don't know the exact number, but we crest over 400 that year.
Wow.
$10,000 coaching program. And little did I know what that was the moment that I fell in love with business owners, because I was on the phone every day talking to business owners and they had no clue what they were doing. I mean, and just between these episodes, we were actually just talking, and it's sometimes uncomfortable to talk about money. And I have no problem talking about it. Part of it's because I've talked to so many business owners, and
Yeah.
a lot of times when I would bring on a salesperson that would talk to business owners, they have a hard time asking the money question.
Yeah.
But I love talking about it, and because the business owners don't get a chance a lot of times to talk about it with someone that understands it.
Yep.
And so giving them a space and to be able to do that. So, I talked with over a 2-year period. I closed, what did I close? Probably 800 people. My conversion rate was probably 50%. So I talked to 1,600 business owners in 2 years, doing discovery calls and learning and just getting under the hood of like, hey, what's working? What's not working? Why do you think it's not working?
Yep.
You start to see these patterns. And then we're not only doing that, then we're coaching. And at one point we built the sales team, 8 different people on the team. We had 3,000 plus businesses that were doing anywhere between $1 million and $20 million. And so I just got behind the curtain of what some businesses did to work and what some businesses did that didn't work.
Yep.
And I just fell in love with doing it. And then you hear these stories, they come together every quarter in cohorts, and the way our model was working, and just this like oxygen that was like breathed into me every quarter of like, man, I did this, and this is what was successful. And man, it was like, I've never done Coke, but it probably felt like Coke, just that day, like it gave me another quarter of just like wind into sales.
Yeah.
And so, that company grew, and I ended up exiting that company. Like, years are so hard to remember. Probably 5 years ago now, which is crazy.
Yeah, I remember it.
And went and did my own consulting and saying, hey, I want to help small business owners. And so did my own thing, launched a company called Scale Factor, was a consulting business. And then another adoption journey came in. We adopted our little guy who's now 4, and knew I needed to be at home. And I was on the road building the Scale Factor thing. It was really running and gunning. But he had challenges. He was 20 months old, and I was like, I can't be on the road right now. And so one of my clients was Donald Miller, and we ended up having a conversation. So I ended up going and working for Don as his chief sales officer or chief revenue officer, overseeing sales and marketing. And they had a few years of kind of stagnant growth, or just a stagnant decline. So covering kind of in that low 8 figures, and said, hey, we need to ingest growth. And so we grew 34% the next year, kind of coming in and doing that. And then year 2, was not as strong. There was a lot of reasons. Don had some health challenges and some different angles around product. And so that was last December. I left that, and now I've done my own consulting the past year, and launching a home services business next year. All the stuff that I've learned and helped people, I'm going to be doing.
Wait, this is official? Because I remember sitting at dinner with you, and you'd be like, I think I want to do it. And we do that all the time as entrepreneurs with each other.
I'm putting it out in the world. It's going to happen.
You're
It's
manifesting
going to
it right
happen.
here.
Yes.
It's happening right here on this
Yeah,
podcast.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the goal to build kind of like portfolio company of multiple of those, or are you just like, I'm all in on scale consulting and home services?
No, I love small business. And
Same.
so, I think the consulting side will always be there, because, so I've got a couple clients that I go really deep with, and then I do strategy, like I just did a strategy session. Where'd I go yesterday? Dallas, with a good, friend of mine, Jamal Miller, has built a business that's kind of right in that $3 million mark and looking to kind of go to the next level. So I spend the day with him, and just so like, literally at 1:30, we were scheduled from 9 to 4. At 1:30, he's like, oh my gosh, I got everything I needed. We're done. Jokingly, because it was just like, everything. I always start by like, hey, what does success look like? At the end of the day, when you go home, talk to your wife, or you tell your team, we want to do this, we did this, we got that accomplished by 1:30, which, the next 2.5 hours, I was able to, get a lot of questions about, hey, do I do this? Do I do that? And we just started another 2.5 hours of working on the business, which was just, it's like, kid in a candy store for me. Super, super fun.
Yeah. It sounds to me like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were also somewhat of an accidental entrepreneur.
100%.
Like even if you go back to the part of your story where you have all these authors, you're working in marketing at Thomas Nelson, all these authors are coming to you going like, hey, great job on the book. Can you help me with this stuff? It's not like you were sitting around going, I wonder if I started a business on how to, right? It was these people coming to you. That's what has come up in my story over and over and over again. And yet, once again, each stage of the journey wasn't something that you designed and said, I want to go do this.
Totally.
Someone was coming to you, noticing something you were good at and inviting it into it, whether it was in the context of a company or you as the business owner.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting, being the publishing background and authors, kind of like the overarching theme is these are like thought leaders, it's kind of the term.
Yeah.
Because it's not everyone has a book, but they're a leader in some type of thing that I work with. But in all of that, we're serving business owners. Even, one of my biggest clients right now is a consultant in the boutique fitness space. And so we're basically serving the small business space that are boutique fitness owners. They're doing between $500,000 and $3 million, depending on how many studios they have. And so it's just been super fun to serve that audience.
What's interesting to me is like every stage of your journey, at least all the ones that I've interacted with you on, even when you were booking speakers, you might have thought that you were working for one specific company, but yet I was a recipient of some of the effort that you were putting in, and I was a small business owner. And so in some ways, whether it's outreach or Nelson, Hyatt, store, it's all of it goes back to you were always in some way not just growing the business that you either owned or were working for, but you were interacting with other business owners.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's probably something that says something about my personality, because if I wasn't, I'd be bored. Why I ended up with Michael and their team for so long, for 6 years, was because there's so many new challenges, and Michael treated me like an entrepreneur. Even though I didn't own the business, he would give me new opportunities, and Megan would too. And it was like we had a great team. And I look back in those years fondly. I just had coffee with him a couple weeks ago, and just to like look back and see what's been built and like what they're still doing to this day is really, really fun.
Yeah. I've been talking a lot about this transition between the information age to the imagination age, and how one of the primary parts of that shift is the underlying currency of knowledge. And how, you think when Gutenberg invented the printing press, all of a sudden knowledge could be spread at scale and distributed.
I think the world at that point was like, we can't have that.
Probably, yeah. But then you fast forward to the internet. It's like, oh, these books are awesome. Like if you do the surgery the way this doctor is writing about, the patient doesn't die. That's pretty cool. Like, like that's life-saving information and knowledge. Then the internet comes along, accelerates that process. Now we have AI. It's like, what's the new currency? And I really believe this. I believe we're moving out of a knowledge-based economy to a wisdom-based economy, because we now have all the information and the knowledge, which means we apparently have access to all the answers, and we have ChatGPT in our pockets, right? So like, what's the new thing? And I really believe it's wisdom. And there's lots of facets to wisdom. One is knowing what questions to ask, 100%. Not just having like the resource book with all the answers. And well, what gives you the ability to know what questions to ask? And ultimately it's a lot of things. It's like character and experience, the story that you've lived, the amount of failure and struggle that you've gone through and overcome. And I see that. I've known this about you after being friends for so long, but I see it right now as evidence in your story of like, you've lived a lot of entrepreneurial lives despite only being 42, because you've interacted with and had your hands directly involved in quite literally thousands of businesses.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I did the math at one point, and it's north of 5,000 businesses.
Yeah.
And then with clients that I've served and generated revenue, it's north of 750 million.
Yeah.
As far as companies that I've directly consulted with or worked with, helping them grow.
It's awesome.
Which is, you start to say those numbers, this little kid from Northwest Indiana, it's kind of awe shocking to me, and very humbling, because it's not what I set out to do. Definitely accidentally, but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
We just got to get you to the point where you can buy the Bears and help them finally win a Super Bowl.
I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. That's not a goal of mine. I'm not going to live my life wanting to buy the Jets or the Bears. Maybe just a couple houses and places I like to visit, and a place for my kids to come, and I'll be happy.
Yeah. Well, and what I can tell you that one of my favorite parts of Chad is not just the wisdom that he actually has in growing businesses, which is why I was so excited to do this podcast. Is like, I want your insights and your wisdom as I'm trying to scale as an entrepreneur, both income and impact.
Yeah.
But dude, it's who you are, it's your character. And I probably spend as much time with you, with your kids, as I do like one-on-one. I always wish we had more one-on-one time.
Yeah.
But as busy dads running businesses, a lot of times it's like, oh, let's get the kids together. And that's an easy excuse for us to be able to hang out. But I think that is a byproduct of the story that you've lived. It's shaped a lot of character over the years. And it's all those different touch points and different moments of it. And you've interacted with some really cool mentors of your own that have
I've learned a
shaped
lot.
who you are by the opportunities that they've given you.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think you can be both proud of what you've accomplished and simultaneously grateful for the story that's been had.
Thanks.
It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And I mean, being dad's my favorite job title right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, you're great at it.
thank you.
No surprise. Yeah. Well, if you're listening in here at the end of this episode, now you're beginning to realize if you didn't know Chad before this podcast, I know many of you did, and that's why you're here. But now you understand why I'm so excited and why this is the guy that I call when stuff isn't working. But I'm like beating my head up against the wall. It's either my buddy Andre, who runs the studio that we're sitting in, and I'm just like, why isn't it working? Or it's Chad. And so it's an honor to be able to sit with you. It's an honor to be able
Feelings
to
mutual.
try to bring your story to more people. They need to hear it. And more importantly than just hearing your story, I'm excited for them to continue this journey with us so that they can continue to experience the very tangible ROI associated with taking what you've learned and applying it to what they're doing in their businesses.
I
Pretty
can't
awesome.
wait. Excited to do it with you.
Yeah, it's going to be pumped. All right. So as you can tell, the inspiration is not just, hey, here's 3 tips on how to scale your business. We're going to get to plenty of that stuff starting with the very next episode. We're going to jump right into helping you make more money by learning how to scale a specific part of your business. We're going to talk all about pricing.
Oh, this
We've
could be
got some
so
more
good.
stories to tell. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get very practical and tactical really quick. But for now, Chad, thanks for sharing some of your story, man. I think you embody the idea behind this podcast, which is not just to build a cool business that makes you a bunch of money, but to live a story that is truly worth scaling. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Continue to like, subscribe, leave those reviews on your podcast platform. If you're following along on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you again very soon right here on the Story of Scale podcast.
The Story of Scale podcast is a production of the Istoria studio, recorded on location in Chattanooga, Tennessee at Socially You Studios. For more resources on how to not only scale your business, but live a story worth scaling, visit istoria.com/scale.